Hello, everybody, and welcome to Arsenal X, Boss Rush's Xbox podcast. I am your host, Jesse Douglas, and we've got the band back together today. I'm kind of excited that it's the three of us that started this, and we're getting to sit down and the three of us. I've been wanting this for a while. So so I'm here, and Corey is here as well,
Hello.
and Ed.
Yes! Hi, everybody.
Yes. And
Why can't you just do that for me, Ed?
I always give you a yes.
I know, but there's a half-hearted one before we started recording, and that one was like,
well,
Ed needs a hug, guys. Send Ed
yeah.
hugs.
Send them some virtual hugs or some real ones if you live by them.
Send me a man first. They also
Yeah.
does that.
Ed's looking for a man, apparently, so. All right. Well, this is a special episode of Arsenal X because someone's having a little anniversary this year, a 20-year anniversary. Yes, Xbox. And so I wanted to get some people together to just kind of go over our history with Xbox, talk about all the things that we love about Xbox. And so as far as it goes for me, people know how much I love Xbox. I think I love it almost as much as Ed loves Nintendo, but it's close, I think. But yeah, so I decided to get a bunch of people together and kind of just celebrate our love for Xbox, and so we're gonna start it off here though with Corey and Ed, and Corey, would you like to talk a little bit about your history with Xbox and the things that you love, and why you've continued to buy their consoles and play their games?
Yeah. So I think like a lot of us, I mean, probably anybody who grew up playing Xbox, pre-Xbox, I guess, would be like the Dreamcast, right? Like, I mean,
Yep.
Jesse, I know you and I have a deep love for the Dreamcast, and
Yep.
Ed shares some love for some Dreamcast. But I mean, we did an old episode of Standard Definition when we were trying to figure out what that show was going to be on Dreamcast. It's somewhere available for you to listen to somewhere. But I feel like most people with Xbox, their first experience was Halo. Right? Like, I mean, LAN parties with Halo is what everybody remembers the original Xbox was, and I'm no exception. Like, the first time I ever saw an Xbox, Halo was running on it, and I thought that was the only game that was on Xbox for a long time. I say that half as a joke, but also I don't remember playing anything else on Xbox until Fable, right? Like, I mean, going to friends' houses with the original Xbox, making sure I had 4 controllers and my Xbox and a copy of Halo and all the cords and stuff, and here we go, right? And remember, the original Xbox had those weird controllers that would like unplug halfway down the cord in case you like jerked it off. So wow, that
design.
You know what? Keep it in case you like ripped the cord out. And sometimes with wired controllers, for people who grew up playing with wired controllers, like sometimes you would sneeze or like get mad and you would rip the controller and like it would pull your console out and unplug it, or the cartridge would pop out, or like if you were playing a disc-based console, it would like freeze and be like meh, and you would ruin the disc and have to trade it in, and hopefully nobody would test it out when you traded it. But yeah, Halo was really the first game that drew me into Xbox, even though I wasn't really into first-person shooters at the time. Like, there's just something about playing games on the Xbox. I remember they touted that it was more powerful than the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube, which was always something that had interested me in games, right? Like a better graphics and better, the big term they used with Halo and Halo 2 especially was bump mapping, which was, they would, it was almost like it, and you could tell back in the day, like clipping and stuff really made bump mapping stand out, but they would create the architecture of the character or the landscape using polygons, but then they would use bump mapping to like create the textures like rocks or armor pieces or whatever, and really make it more detailed than it actually was based on the bump mapping. And so yeah, I just remember that. And then I took my Xbox to college with me, and Halo 2 never left the console. Like it was just the Halo 2 machine. And when my friends were playing Halo 2 and I was not playing Halo 2, I was sitting in my bed playing, like, I don't know, probably some stupid GameCube or PS2 RPG like Baton Kaitos or Kingdom Hearts or something, right? Like that's but when it was my turn to play Halo 2, I was in there playing Halo 2. So Xbox meant a lot to me more when the 360 came out, I feel like, because that's when more games started appearing on that I would like to play. Like Gears of War was really the first game that drew me into the 360. Not that I didn't enjoy games on the original Xbox, right? Like KOTOR was a great game, Jade Empire, Stranger's Wrath, those, Fable, obviously. But the 360 was really the console that drew me in, and like I was like, man, Xbox is kind of doing some cool things here. And I got real into Gears of War for a long time. Halo 3 was obviously a big deal. Fable 2 was a huge deal. The 360 was an amazing console. I still believe that it was the best of that generation of consoles. And I really like the 360. I really love Gears. Like Gears is one of my favorite franchises of all time, and I wouldn't have ever known, like, if I wasn't into the Xbox, like I wouldn't. I mean, I would probably know that Gears existed, but it's so intrinsically tied to that brand.
Yeah.
So
and the thing is like, like, it was what it was with the whole red ringing stuff and all that. But I mean, it was a testament that even though that was happening, people still would turn it in to get fixed or whatever, because like it something as massive of an issue like that, and it still did not stop people from wanting to continue to try to play games on it. And I mean, like that's massive in my opinion. Like,
right.
Like, I mean, it didn't turn people off. People still wanted to buy them.
when the red ring happened, like it was almost cheaper to go trade in your broken box for a new box instead of sending it to Microsoft to get it fixed, right? I mean, I know they fixed a lot of boxes, but like,
yeah,
I think I went through like 4 or 5 360s, and like I got a launch one. And then when the Elite console came out, remember the Elite, which was basically the launch console with a bigger hard drive, and it was black instead of white. That was the only difference. I got that, and then I traded that in for a Gears. It was like the Gears 2, maybe, had a red console.
Oh yeah.
So I traded in for that, and that one red ringed, and I sent that one in to get fixed, but in the meantime, I got the 360S, which was the redesign.
Yeah.
And then I traded that in for the Halo 4 console, which was amazing. That translucent blue 360 was just the greatest console ever. Dude, that console is still, like, if you rank special, which Ed did on Boss Rush Games, you can check out Ed's ranking of special edition consoles. That console is still, for me, at the top of the list.
Well, so. And and Ed, I know we've had this discussion before that like when it comes to special edition consoles, like Xbox has done a tremendous job of just making, cool looking consoles that really make you want to buy, even if you already have one, want to buy or trade in to get the new ones, because like they've really been doing a great job of coming up with these cool designs and looks and stuff. And
it was the equivalent to the DS and really a lot of the 3DS when they did like special editions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember the I got an Xbox One when Titanfall. Well, no, I got an Xbox One. When was it? I forget when I got it because I played the original Titanfall on Xbox 360, which was a great version of the game, by the way. Bluepoint made it, which I know they do a lot of PlayStation stuff now, but it was a really solid version of that game. But I remember when I got my Xbox One, I got Titanfall for it, and then like I remember them. Didn't they do like a special edition console for Titanfall? I know they did the controller.
Yeah,
the console I feel like was white and orange.
Yeah, I thought
they
did.
may have. I don't know. When I was researching, didn't see.
Maybe it was just a skin that somebody put on one, but I saw a Titanfall Xbox One console at my local used store, and I was like, man, I want that. I really want that. And it might have just been a skin that somebody bought and plastered on the console, right? But it looked really cool. Jesse, I know you had the Titanfall Xbox One controller.
Yeah, I still do. Yeah, I still do. It's seen better days, but like the charging port is a little loose.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you use a console, when you use like a controller every day, right? Like I have controllers like that. That gray one with the green sticks that you had for a while, and then I ended up getting it because you had it, and I was like, I need that. That was, man, controllers were just so. Now I have two awesome ones for my Series X. I have the blue one and that shock yellow one.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to the Xbox 360. It was like there's so many great games for that, right? Like Assassin's Creed started there. Gear started there. Oblivion made RPGs big, right? Mass Effect, right? Like Mass Effect is just an amazing series. I just re-downloaded the Legendary Edition to play through that because it's getting so many great. It's getting a lot of great feedback. Sorry if I'm stumbling over words. It's kind of late. It's been a but yeah, I really like the 360, and I started my Destiny journey on 360, and then my friends ended up getting PS4s, right? And that was the only reason why I got a PlayStation 4 over an Xbox One was because they were playing it on Destiny, right? And I know in a couple months, as of this recording, it's not going to matter. They actually did a big crossplay beta this weekend, but characters didn't transfer. I loved Destiny, and that's where my friends were playing. So I got a PlayStation 4, and I ended up getting an Xbox One a little bit after, I want to say, no, I got it for Christmas. The Master Chief Collection came out. Which I think was like the year after it came out. The big VCR one, which was just, oh boy, that console was ugly. But then, like, I mean, you look at the redesign, like the S and the Xbox One X are amazing looking consoles. I think that's the best designs they've ever had. Like the Series S and the Series X are great looking consoles. Like there's something when especially like you look at the launch of the Xbox One and it was just like a bad launch, right? I'm pretty sure even the hardcorest of the Xbox fans can acknowledge that launch was bad.
Yeah, it was.
I would say the Phil Spencer era has been the best the Xbox has been
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of the 360, I would say.
Yeah.
With Game Pass and just the IPs that they seem to be, really, I guess, curating now,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the studios they've purchased in the last couple of years, and the lineup that we have moving forward. Like, don't get me wrong, Quantum Break and Sunset Overdrive and Recore were all good to great games, right? I
Yeah.
still think Quantum Break is, if you liked Control, I would play Quantum Break if you can play it. It's essentially a similar idea. Sunset Overdrive is, we talk about it all the time, how great it is.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I've been kind of paying attention, and I'm seeing, a lot, like more and more people who are picking up Xboxes who didn't buy an Xbox One, that are now getting the new one if they could, or getting, like the Xbox One X or whatever they can, and because of Game Pass, and I've seen a lot of people playing, going back and playing Quantum Break, and being like, this game was awesome. Like, like it's it's unfortunate. It's kind of like what we've seen, with Sunset Overdrive, where for a long time there, it was, largely kind of just got lost in everything.
It's the Nintendo effect, where
Yeah.
everybody who crapped on Wii U and then got a Switch and then playing most of all the Wii U ports on it, they'd be like, "Wow, I didn't know how good this game was."
I know, we talked about that the other night, Ed, on our 250 episode part 1 for Powblock, right? We're like, I still stand by the Wii U has one of the best, like, it's my favorite Nintendo console in terms of the lineup of games, right? Like, you can say what you want about the gamepad. I know David and I had a little spat about the gamepad, which, man, that was
interesting.
Side tangent. I made a pretty good joke towards David where, like, he had the Switch high on his list of top Nintendo consoles and the Wii U pretty low, right?
Yeah.
And I said, how can you have the Wii U so low and the Switch so high when their library of games is almost exactly the same? But, I mean, it wasn't, I wasn't trying to be like, harmful in that joke. It was just a joke.
Yeah.
But, if you look at how do we get on this topic? What were we even talking about? I don't even remember.
Because the Series X and Game Pass playing all the Xbox One stuff.
Master Chief Collection is, doing their kind of seasonal battle pass type thing where you get cool armor and skins and stuff, which I think was a great idea. I hope that they continue that with Infinite coming out. Like, I still hope the Master Chief Collection gets this stuff, because I still feel like classic Halo is classic Halo, right? But also I think Infinite needs to be its own thing, and people who want classic Halo can play the Master Chief Collection, and people who want new Halo can play Infinite, right? Like, I feel like their IP, like, even though they haven't had a lot since kind of buying studios and kind of, I would say, hitting the reset button when Xbox One didn't launch well, right? We still got a bunch of Halo, we still got a bunch of Gears, we still got a bunch of Forza.
Sea of Thieves is so massive, man. That's the thing, is it's like Minecraft and a lot of those games where there's these massive followings, and just because we don't hear about it, those games in the news every single day, like, there's still so many people playing that stuff, and like, it's just it's got its mind of its own, just kind of off doing its thing, and it doesn't care whether people talk about it or not, because it's just like, it's perfectly fine what it is, kind of, like, in a lot of ways, the way Nintendo has handled things. They don't care if people want to talk about certain things or whatever. They're gonna do things, and it's, and some of Microsoft's games have kind of, they found their area, and they've existed in those areas, and they're going to go on strong regardless of what people think or want to say about it or don't want to say about it. Like they've got massive, like Grounded too. I'm sure there's a lot. I mean, I like Grounded. I don't play it a whole lot, but I do like to go back to it and just kind of play it. And I do like what it is.
They did say that their updates are going to be more
frequent, probably.
Or they're going to be bigger, I think, and less frequent, but more substantial. Okay. I think is what they said, because I think they're getting closer to a 1.0 launch.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think Microsoft's doing a really good job of, I think this is a really good thing for some games to do, is to let people have, like they're saying things, and like really look to the fans and the people who want these games to see, kind of figure things out and see what they want them to be,
Right. But yeah, I mean, I think with, you brought up Sea of Thieves. I think them kind of nurturing that was kind of their first step into seeing what they wanted to do in future games, right? Like we're seeing Forza Motorsport kind of take that approach. It seems like where it's just going to be Forza Motorsport, and they're going to do like a seasonal thing or that. I really feel like that Forza is primed to be that for them. I feel like Halo Infinite seems like that's the route they're going to take with that game. Is kind of, this is going to be, if you want to play Halo Infinite's going to be the Halo game for the next so many years, right? Buying the studios like Ninja Theory, giving them a chance to do what they want to do with, and Hellblade was such an amazing experience, and that Project Mara looks like something that's going to be right up your alley, Jesse. It's scary and weird, and that kind of, I mean, it feels like a Jesse game.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I really like what Xbox is doing, and I feel like that they have the games that I want to play, and it's not necessarily first party stuff, but like a lot of the games that I want to play run better on Xbox. They have more interesting ideas on Xbox. Like Destiny will run at 120 frames a second on Series X. I don't really know what the perks are on PlayStation 5, but like I love Destiny. I have it installed on every single Xbox that I own, right? Like it's just Gears is one of my favorite franchises. I think Gears 5 was one of the best games Microsoft has ever made in terms of story combined with gameplay mechanics and character development and stuff. Like, they're always getting compared to Sony, who has, a first party game coming out every 3 to 6 months, right? Like we just saw the Horizon State of Play last week as of this recording. It looks incredible. It looks incredible.
Yeah. Looks amazing.
I want to see Xbox hit that level of game, right? Like Horizon's my favorite IP from Sony. Like it's a big open world game. It's got a cool story. It's not dark, right? Like it's not, The Last of Us, which I don't like, right? Like I just don't like The Last of Us. Sorry everybody for that hot take, but aside from the dark story and just like making me feel uncomfortable the entire time I'm watching it or playing it or whatever, it's like I don't think it plays very well. I don't think the mechanics of the game are great. Like I just don't like The Last of Us. But Xbox is always being compared to them and saying that they don't have enough games like Sony, which I don't think they need to, right? Like I think they got enough diversity that's gonna switch it up, right? Psychonauts is coming out. The Outer Worlds is going to be a huge IP for them moving forward. Avowed is going to essentially, I think the Outer Worlds and Avowed are going to give them kind of room to make sure that games like Skyrim and Starfield, right? Like we didn't even get that far, but those games take forever to make. I feel like Avowed and Outer Worlds are going to give them their interstitial games, right? In that kind of space. Because Outer Worlds is basically a Fallout game. A small Fallout game, right? Like I feel like that's what it is, and it's great. It's fun. I actually enjoyed what I played of it.
Yeah, me too.
which I don't really like Fallout or Elder Scrolls that much because I always feel like I'm trying to, if there's too much to do, it feels like at some point where they're just intimidatingly huge, and I just don't want that, where the Outer Worlds is like, oh, you can beat the game in 15 to 20 hours? Cool, I'll give it a shot. Plus Game Pass is such a great idea. I don't know, I just feel like Xbox is hitting all the right notes for me. And it's great. I love seeing them succeed, especially because like you hear that story where Phil Spencer had to like convince Microsoft to keep Xbox around, and I'm glad they did, because I feel like the platform, especially in the Phil Spencer era, is such a unique experience. It's such a accessible experience with the, you can get the Series S for what I like $300. There's a lot of trade-in deals to where you could get it for less than $100, right? I know Game in the UK had like a wacky trade-in deal where if you traded in a PS4, Xbox One, or Switch with a membership to their store, you could get a Series S for $40 or £40 or whatever it is.
Yeah,
that's insane. Crazy. And then with Game Pass, like being available through the cloud and in the browser and smart TVs later this year, like you basically only need $10 and an Xbox controller, and not even an Xbox controller, a Bluetooth controller of any kind.
Yeah.
To play
PS4, you could have a PS4 controller if you want.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I mean, not to like side tangent. Like, on Boss Rush podcast earlier, I said I wanted to play Horizon on PC. Well, like I was looking at it, and like if you go to their Steam page, it shows the buttons for an Xbox controller.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, this is some weird times we're living in. I just think Xbox is doing all the right things, with cross-play, cross-buy, smart delivery, Game Pass, a ton of new IPs and a ton of new studios to work with, a lot of great ideas, right? Like I think Battletoads and Psychonauts are on the low end of things that they want to do, not in terms of quality, but like they're experimenting with games at different price points if you don't have Game Pass, right? Like Battletoads was really cool. I think Psychonauts is going to be a big hit for them, just because Double Fine is so beloved. They're hitting all the right notes, and I'm excited for the future of Xbox.
Yeah, and Ed, I know you've kind of, as we've talked about things, and over the years or whatever, and like you've even mentioned like how you've been excited because they have had a lot of different things, and like trying to have a more diverse thing, games to choose from, and I think that that ultimately that's what I would rather have than just having certain kinds of first party games, and like not just like if they were to go back to just sticking to only making Halo games and only making like Gears games, and that's it, and like only shooter games. Like I'm glad that that we are getting our Sea of Thieves and our and the Grounded and the and bringing Fable back, and trying to get more things to do, and not everything needs to be a Fable or a Forza. Like I still want those Battletoads and all those fun little weird games. And I know we've kind of talked about that stuff, and you've been, like I said, you kind of enjoyed that they have a little bit more diversity in things. So, but yeah, would you like to go ahead and talk about your history, Ed, and kind of the things that have made Xbox kind of stick out?
Well, for me, it was kind of like seeing it in EGM when they had Xbox versus GameCube doing comparisons and games and stuff. And I know I went with the GameCube, and I already had a PS2. I waited a little bit to get the Xbox because they had the S controller at that time. So when I got it, the first thing I got was like Psychonauts and playing that game and picking up some other things. And I played Halo and it was okay for what it was at that time. I did the LAN thing with a lot of people, eating pizza, having drinks and stuff.
Pizza and
but
Halo.
but it was just like there were games that when I couldn't find it on GameCube or PS2, they were on Xbox, so I would go get them. And I kind of enjoy playing those games like Whiplash and Prince of Persia, The Warrior Within, um, and things like that. And I enjoyed what they had to offer. I skipped the 360 because I had a PS3, and people kind of know my feelings about that. But when it came to Xbox One, looking at the design, I was just like, "Oh, I love the design of the system." Because when I seen the PS4, I was just like, "That looks like a George Foreman grill or a Kit Kat bar." Like
I was gonna say, it looks like a broken Kit Kat bar, and somebody stole half of it.
I did not like that the design of it, but eventually I did get a PS4. But it was seeing Rise of the Tomb Raider, and literally after playing Tomb Raider on PS3, I was just like, they got the exclusive for Rise. Like to me at that time, I had to get an Xbox One because I had to get Rise, and then I went back and got some of their old stuff, and then I was seeing Ori and the Blind Forest. And I was just like, I'm so glad I got an Xbox One, playing Quantum Break, looking at that. And then just looking at some of the, playing Vanquish on PS3 and seeing that it was like backwards compatible for Xbox One. At the time I was playing a lot of Xbox One and still do. And I think that's when I felt like Microsoft found their footing in gaming. Offering a diverse library. People counted them out when surprisingly they had a lot of great titles. Forza Motorsport 4 is one of the best titles on Xbox One. I switched over. I played Destiny on PS3, but I switched over for Destiny 2 on Xbox One because I love the controller. I think the Xbox One controller, it feels good. Like I don't need an S or anything. Something about that.
I feel like the Xbox controller is the best controller on the market right now. I really do. I think the Xbox One controller is a little bit better than the Xbox Series controller, especially like the D-pad. I feel like the D-pad's still kind of. That's like the one thing that they need to work on. I feel like is the D-pad. And I remember the 360 control. Remember the silver 360 controllers that had the D-pad that rotated, and you could either have it like boosted up or you could have it flush with the console, right? I feel like I missed that. But other than that, like the way it feels, the way it just, I don't know. I love this controller.
Like the Xbox, I think the Xbox One controller, and since I haven't got to play Series X yet, I feel like the Xbox One controller felt good for action games, felt good for, of course, shooters. There was something about holding it and playing games on it that really felt comfortable. Definitely for a lot of third-party games. The first-party stuff, yes, like playing Forza, like I mentioned, playing Minecraft or playing like even Alan Wake and stuff, it just always felt comfortable. Definitely playing the Gears trilogy and the Gears 4 or 5. Like Gears 5 still to this day looks amazing.
Dude, Gears 5 is just phenomenal looking.
And 1X, just like seeing the power that Microsoft put into that system to make games look like jaw-dropping gorgeous. I felt like I said earlier, Microsoft found their footing with the Xbox One because it was one of the things that, and I talked to Corey about this, not Jesse, you talked about it. It's just that it feels like when a company has their downtime, like they're not doing so well, their next system sometimes make them better. PS3 was Sony's downtime coming from PS2, but look at how PS4 did. 360 Oh, go ahead, Corey.
Oh, I was gonna say you look at the GameCube and then you look at the GameCube and then the Wii, right? Like I mean, we love the GameCube and a lot of the games on the GameCube, but it only sold 20 million units. And then you look at the Wii, it's like the second best selling console of all time.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you even look at the Wii U and how that did, and then Switch, going up and down. Microsoft had that kind of with the Xbox 360. 360 was high on during that era, and then Xbox One had their low points. I mean, it's still so good, but they had their low points because of some of the mistakes that was happening. But look at Series X now. A lot of people are playing it and everything. And it feel like Microsoft learned over time. And I always call this the Nintendo effect of stuff, is that over time companies get better with stuff. And when they get better, they produce out some of the best quality in games. And I think Microsoft is knocking it out, offering Game Pass to those who want it, making their online, making probably one of the best online services for gaming for everybody. I even wrote a blog about it. I think playing with friends and everything, Xbox is the best place to do it. They've been doing it since 360. I mean, they did it with Xbox One, the regular Xbox, but like with 360, that's when online gaming was birthed, and it wasn't getting birthed; it was being perfected. With like with Call of Duty, that was a big one. Getting the kinks and stuff out and everything. And then just look at how Xbox One is, how easy it is, and everything. PlayStation 3, they had online functionality, but it wasn't up to the stuff that Xbox 360 had at that time.
Yeah.
So
because Xbox, like with the first Xbox, and obviously we know that PS2 had some online functionality, but like Xbox, like when that first Xbox came out, and like it was like, okay, like something that was only at the time really done for the most part on PC, now no longer was only a PC thing. It could be done on consoles now too. And and then Xbox just kind of had that time to be able to perfect that and start it sooner than everyone else did, and then they kind of had the lead on that. And like, I know you don't have a Series X, but like, like one of the other things too is like, we've kind of always thought that, with Xbox or with a new console, that we want them to have a new UI and blah, blah, blah. But like, look at how well Series X and Xbox people have made out with them sticking with what they kind of already had and just improving upon it. And you've got people complaining about PS5.
I was about to say, like, not to crap on the PS5 or anything, but a lot of people are struggling with the new UI because it's, it doesn't have a lot of the same features. It doesn't, I guess the trophy system is pretty jacked. And some people were a little underwhelmed because it didn't really feel like they were getting something new. But at the same time, I was like, man, I don't have to relearn this. I don't have to look around. I know how to use the interface. I know how to use the store, right? Like, it just felt good to know what I was getting into. And like, oh, well, my games look better. They run better, right? Like, okay, so we didn't have a Demon's Souls or a Spider-Man at launch, right? But like, I got Gears 5 at 120 frames a second. I got, all these great upgrades to games that I already own. And some people say that that's an excuse or whatever, but I don't really think it is. I feel like I got great value buying it at launch because of the upgrades I got. I still love Gears, right? Like, I play Gears often. Gears Tactics for me was like an awesome launch game for the console. I think like that's more Gears in a cool XCOM style thing. Like, that's awesome.
It's one of the things that happened with Nintendo. I'm not sorry jumping back onto Nintendo, but everybody thought
we wouldn't expect anything less of you, Ed.
No, everybody thought when Switch first came out, it wouldn't have no games. Like, they were. But,
I mean, we did a whole episode about it, right? Like, does Switch have enough games at launch? And it was what 1-2 Switch, Bomberman, and Zelda, right? And it turns out like,
it did some
well, they didn't really need anything other than Zelda, right? Like, we had that discussion.
And then throughout the year, they was dropping gems. And you look at Series X and you look at PlayStation 5, and people are asking where are the games at and stuff. And it's just the reverse. It's so weird, and I think Microsoft is doing a good job. Of course, getting these studios and stuff, but they've been building their library. We've always talked about Microsoft building up a good library, so when more systems could become more available, when people go out and get these systems, they could go get the Medium, they could go get Halo Infinite, they could get Hellblade 2 and Gears 5 and Grounded and all of these other games that would be available for it. Um, it's just I think Microsoft is on the right track, and I think with 20 years, they had to go some ups and downs to be where they're at.
Every console does.
Exactly. You don't. It's not about being the best. It's offering the best that you can. Nintendo's not the best at everything, but they offer some quality games. Sony not the best at everything, but they offer some good quality of games, some of the best game of the year stuff for both companies. Microsoft does the same thing. Corey, you mentioned Quantum Break. I think Quantum Break is one of Remedy's best games ever.
It is. I don't think there's any arguing that. It's just it was stuck on a platform that, the launch was bad, and a lot of people didn't buy it because it was $500, came with Kinect, and was less powerful and more expensive. And I really think that was a huge advantage for PlayStation to take off the way it did. I really do think that price point and coming with Kinect was the plus their bad kind of handling of always online stuff, which by the way is happening on both consoles. Their always online thing, pretty much, if you don't if you buy digital stuff or Game Pass, you always have to be connected. You have to check in every 48 hours or whatever. That stuff exists on both consoles right now,
and people don't even think about it.
It was about the messaging and how bad the messaging was. And I feel like people in 2021 can appreciate that more than they could in 2013, right? It just that just was just a bad everything. But
people just don't like change, and I just wanted to say one other thing too, that I like. One of the reasons that I celebrate Xbox is their ability to try to be more transparent about things and try to listen to people. And they could have just as easily during then just not told us that kind of stuff was going to happen, and then it just happened, and people be like, whoa, but they were forward about it, and they said that they wanted to do that. And
it's looking at Phil Spencer's leadership. I always bring up the Iwata thing, but I bring up Iwata because he was on everything about Nintendo, and you got to kind of recognize the face. Phil Spencer's doing the same thing. He takes accountability for any mess ups and stuff. When he'll go out and talk more and hype up the system and talk great about games. So we got a visual thing. I don't even know what is it for PlayStation for Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan. He's getting a lot of stuff for PlayStation 5 because of the quotes that he's saying and all the things that's going. But when we saw Iwata, and go ahead, Corey. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say before you continue, it's you can tell, and this isn't true all the time, but you can tell when a leader plays and knows the product, right? Phil Spencer plays games. Iwata clearly played Nintendo games, right?
He designed and built some of the best games on Nintendo.
And you clearly know when your leader knows the product, and it's clear that Jim Ryan doesn't really know the product. He's the businessman, right? He is a businessman through and through, which isn't always a bad thing, right? I think that they're making interesting decisions. The Final Fantasy stuff is really interesting. That they seem to be doing. I really think that they're making moves because almost as a reaction to Microsoft's buying the studios, right? Because Microsoft has more cash on hand than Sony ever will, right? to buy studios to have exclusives, but Sony's making these deals to keep games off of Xbox. And Jim Ryan's clearly the businessman who knows how to handle a business, but it's very clear that he does not understand the legacy of PlayStation. He does not understand what would please the hardcore fan base, like I don't know, backwards compatibility or letting players play old games that they really love. Like, you know, how many people have been asking PlayStation to have backwards compatibility like Xbox? Even if it wasn't as good as Xbox's, they still want to stick their disc in and play the games, right? Like that.
Yeah. And it's about preservation.
Yeah,
you know, like,
I mean,
that's the thing is.
Yeah, there's a quote going around from Jim Ryan, like when he went to a Gran Turismo event celebrating the history of the series, and they had like all the numbered entries of Gran Turismo at this event to promote Gran Turismo 7 for when it comes out, and he was like something like along the lines of, this game looks like shit, who would want to play this, right? Like he said that about his own company's legacy, and it's like, well, the point, like, I'm not saying anybody wants to go back and play Gran Turismo, but somebody's going to want to go back. Yeah, but somebody's going to want to go back and play Ape Escape or Crash or Spyro or, you know, Metal Gear Solid 1, which is not available on a modern console. Think about that. One of the most influential games of all time. The last generation it was released on was PlayStation 3, right? And you, like, if you don't have PlayStation 3, you cannot play Metal Gear Solid, which is crazy to me because that series is so influential and so good in its own right in terms of like characters and story, and like it's one of the most talked about series of all time, and you can't even play the first game, right?
And I think he didn't realize, like, because like even like, of course, going back to Nintendo, but like with the DS, but with the DS and Wii, like they always had backwards compatibility from old stuff that you could play on, and Nintendo have been doing it for years. You know, and they have been asking Xbox, even when 360 came out, can we play our regular Xbox games? Because you got a great, huge library. And it took Phil Spencer to Xbox One to be like, you know what, people are really asking for this. And look what they've done. They did. Go ahead.
Sorry. Sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off. I'm sorry. But that clip of Phil Spencer of him saying we didn't know it was possible, but our engineering team has made it possible, and I'm here to announce backwards compatibility. That clip has been floating around the last couple of weeks, and it's like, it's such a cool clip, even though like how many games have you played backwards compatible the last 5 years, right? Like I could probably name like 10 games I've gone back to look at and play, not finish, just play, right? Like, but it's so cool that I can just be like, okay, this game's I had on disc is on sale for $4, right? Like I just got the first 2 Splinter Cell games for like $6, right? And I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever go back and play them, but I remember how influential and how amazing that first Splinter Cell game was. Like, if I want to check it out for like a video we're gonna do in the future, spoilers, I want to do more video stuff with Xbox. You know, Jesse, you and I talk about the Game Pass stuff all the time. I'm like, what if we need footage of Splinter Cell? What if we need, what if we want to check it out? What if I just want to play it someday? And the fact that I can just do that without having to worry about, hooking up another console or, okay, granted, there's still a few games that I have my 360 hooked up for, like, falls like the Transformers Cybertron games or the Ninja Turtles games or whatever. Like, licensing is always going to be an issue, and you're not going to ever get everything, right? It's just not going to happen. But the fact that they're making the effort and trying and making sure the games run not only correctly but better in most cases, I would say.
I was going to say with the AI learning stuff that they're using right now, you can get those games at 4K.
Have you played the original Psychonauts lately?
It's running I downloaded it, but I haven't.
It's running at like 1440p and 60 frames a second, and it looks and runs better than it ever did on the original Xbox. This is crazy.
And that's good that Microsoft is doing that they are enhancing games and stuff. I think just the idea of backwards compatibility is just, it was surprising that they couldn't do it, And a lot of people might have a reason or excuse, but it's good that they work hard toward it, and to show that
Yeah.
Microsoft was working hard toward it. Because I'm like, if you got 20 years of games, people really want to go back and play it and everything,
Yeah.
and it was just good to see that Microsoft is able to do that now.
Yeah.
I may get on Microsoft about some things, but I love the fact that they are offering a lot of this stuff to a lot of players who are just
Mhm.
jumping into the Microsoft ecosystem and checking out a history of their games from the original Xbox and 360 and even Xbox One. Uh, it's good to see that, and they continue to work hard to get that going.
Mhm.
Well,
So,
and like I was, like it's kind of a joke, an inside joke, but like everyone was posting the other day, like uh like the amounts of Google searches and stuff for certain things and all that, right? And there's kind of some stuff going on, but I just thought for what the heck, you can go to the Google Analytics, and then you can type in like things, and then it will show like how much they're being searched, and how frequently, and how many searches for those things they get. And I just, for the fun of it, I just put Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox in there, and Xbox is at a steady like above everyone else as far as people searching for Google for stuff. So like they're doing enough to be in people's mind share right now,
mhm.
where they need to be, because there's still a lot of people talking about PlayStation 5 and stuff because of the difficulties of trying to get a hold of things, and there's always going to be talk about Nintendo and stuff like that. But 10 years or even less, well, like 5 6 years ago, there's no way that Xbox would have really been trending really high like that, being searched and and looked into and things like that. But they've been doing so many good things that people want to learn about what's going on over there, and what they're doing. And it's just good to see. We want to, we all three of us, we want to see all these consoles, like do well, because like competition is what makes things better. And and it's just really nice to see
It
Xbox,
sometimes yes, competition, but I think sometimes it's about experience. You
yeah,
want to get as much experience in the game from different companies as you
yeah,
can. Like Microsoft
yeah.
is good about giving a certain experience about the game, whether it's in the 80s or 90s or whatever people want to see it. They give
Hmm.
you a great experience. You leave coming away from that game, being hooked on it, enjoying it, and be like, oh, I can't wait to go back and talk to my friends about this, and
Hmm.
or I can't wait to play this online functionality part of the game with them and everything, or even meet new people do that experience. Microsoft is good at that. Sony and
Hmm.
Nintendo, they do the same thing. It's just that Microsoft offers it more in a sense.
Hmm.
I think when all three of them are succeeding in their own way, and they're all delivering the experience that, depending on who you are, you're getting something out of it and everything. And
Hmm.
I think for the next couple of years with Microsoft, they're going to continue to deliver experience. Now, if they're going to own half of the Western market by buying up companies, that we shall see. But but Microsoft needs that, because to me, it's not a competing factor. It's that I hopefully they have the games that people want to play and experience and
Yeah,
Yeah.
stuff. And if
yeah.
Microsoft is willing to rescue a company, give a company a try, build up a company and everything,
Hmm.
they're going to do it.
That,
Let
and like being able to make deals with Japanese companies to convince them that Xbox is a viable place to put their games
Mhm.
too, right? Like
Hmm.
we've seen the success of Yakuza, we've
Hmm.
seen the success of Kingdom Hearts and older Final Fantasy games coming over to Xbox and Game Pass in general, right? Like that, I feel
Yeah.
like once they make that jump and really get in the mindset, at least convince Japanese companies, maybe not that their players should be playing on Xbox, but that, Western players want their games on the Xbox platform.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they will be just as good, or maybe even better in some cases, than PlayStation, because of their diverse library and their diverse set of studios and IP and stuff. So I know we've talked about this a lot, like across the board, even on Crossroads, right? But like PlayStation has so many samey games, right? You look at, they're all
by
third
numbers,
person over the shoulder action games. And like, don't get me wrong, I love those games. I like Tomb Raider is one of my favorite franchises of all time, right?
Mhm.
Like the third person action genre is amazing. Like it's sitting here saying that, I realize Gears is my favorite Xbox IP, and it's a third person over the shoulder action game. But like, I just don't know how your entire library can rely on that genre. Somebody's going to want something different at some point, right? Like, some of my favorite Sony games are games that aren't even that genre, right? Like, you look at Concrete Genie is such an interesting game. Like, the Sackboy game that just came out for PlayStation, right? Like it almost looks like Mario 3D World, but with Sackboy, which is awesome. I think that's such a great choice. Astrobot seems to be getting such an amazing reception, right? Like I feel like, I mean, Ed, you talk about the Last of Us, but The Last Guardian a lot, which is one of your favorite. And guess what? It's not a third-person action game. It's more of like an adventure style game, right? And I think Sony needs more of that. And I think that's where Xbox shines, right? Where maybe they don't have the quote unquote narrative games that Sony does, but at the end of the day, I still feel like gameplay is king. I still feel like if you put out a great game that plays well, the story stuff can come later, right? I mean, look at Destiny, how terrible that story is, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I love Destiny, but the story in the game is terrible. Like, you have to go to so many outside sources just to figure out what's going on, right? That's why on Tower Casuals, like, every time like Josh breaks down the lore, I pay attention, because it's like, oh, I didn't know that. I would love to see like some of these big story moments play out in game, which some of the biggest stuff that happens in Destiny story, especially recently, happens off screen or out of the game. And it's like, well, why didn't you show that in like a cutscene or like one of your cool artistic slides that you do when a new expansion comes out? Like, you could tell these stories, and it's really interesting. So I feel like if the gameplay is great, the story stuff will come. And I really feel like Microsoft has made the leap to at least try to compete in that space, right? We talked about Gears 5 already, which is the best story. I feel like Gears 5 is the best game Microsoft has ever produced. Period.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't super like I've always liked Gears, but I was never like hooked a lot by that franchise. But this 5 really is what really made me excited for 6. Like,
5 has a more focused narrative than the other games. I think the other games try to go for a cinematic, paint by numbers, kind of design, where I feel like 5 is so focused, even though it feels linear. It's telling a straight story. It's not putting stunts. It's not trying to make anything big or grand. It's trying to make you feel invested, and the Gears 5 does a great job with that. I think that's what when we was talking about God of War for PS4, it was just like it was weird to me that people was talking about, the narrative, this is the best narrative, and talking about, I'm like, narrative has always been in games. Why do you feel like that you just now taking notice of it?
Like, I like God of War, right? Like, and I'm about I was talking to Jesse before we started recording, and I feel like over the last month or so, I've really been focusing on like instead of what the industry wants to hear or like how they think we should feel, like I should just say what I feel instead of like trying to worry about what everybody else is feeling. Like I like God of War. I don't think it's great. Like it's like it's great in the sense of like, oh, it plays well and like the story's good. I don't think it's anything, I don't think it's anything revolutionary. I think the menu system and the map system suck, right? Like I mean, don't get me wrong. I think God of War is great. I like that. I used to love that series.
And that's just it. Like some games just don't need to be perfect to have fun, and like we play games because we want to have fun.
Well, you were talking about Biomutant on the Boss Rush podcast, Jesse. Like that game is getting all kinds of 6s and 7s, but like, who cares?
It's fun.
Right. It's not that the game has to be perfect. It's that games don't have to try so hard. Like if you literally, there's a balance that needs to be there for games, and I think that's why, like with me being a Nintendo player, I find that balance because they know how to tell a narrative, but also make it fun. And I think when games try to be so cinematic and so over the top, and really try to like have this big experience of a moment, you sometimes be like, okay, that was great, but you pull this car over and over and over again. And I'm just talking about games who try to go for that big narrative. I think Microsoft, I won't say Microsoft. I think Ninja Theory did a great job with Hellblade, being able to tell that story and that narrative, but also focus on the theme with a little bit of the gameplay and make you realize that, hey, this is a deep game, and that's what you need to focus on. And also, you're helping people who are dealing with this. And I think that's why I talk about The Last Guardian. It's because, oh, go ahead, Corey. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, by the way, speaking of Hellblade, another game that Metacritic is like a 7.5 or 8. It's not a perfect 10, right? But you know, the gameplay is good and the story that they're telling is great. And I know that this is kind of like reverse what I said about God of War just now and how I kind of feel gameplay is king, but like that's a situation where the story kind of trumps the gameplay, and it's really trying to do something interesting with their storytelling, and I feel like that's what a lot of people grabbed onto that game. I mean, that combat is it's fun, it's fine, and it's really simple, right? But it's not trying to like reinvent the wheel on anything,
right?
But you know,
it was about the message and what that message was being attached. Like when people were buying Hellblade, Ninja Theory was donating to a charity, not a charity. They was donated for research for that, for schizophrenia, I think. Was it that?
I think it's psychosis.
You
know, and so that even made the game more in the story more appealing, because they weren't just doing it just to make money off a game. They were doing it with a charity in mind and research. And you don't get that in games. And now seeing that Microsoft purchased Ninja Theory and everything, they'll have a higher production and stuff, but I think Ninja Theory gonna be like, we still want to tell a story. We still want to focus on that. And I think that's the thing about Microsoft giving these companies you know, being able to tell their stories. It's not, to me personally, it's not about, oh, they just throwing around money so they can tell these grand things. No, it's going to be that Microsoft wants these companies to give put out this art, put out this expression of a game, and really connect to players, and really so that yes, games can be fun, but they also could have a meaning. That's more, and it's good to see Microsoft doing that.
Yeah, and they wanna, you know, I think, you know, they've kind of made it very clear, you know, with they're kind of letting these studios do stuff that they want to do, is they want to make sure that they have the funds and the, you know, the support and stuff to make sure that they can continue doing what they're doing and have, you know, a little bit more security, because, you know, like with the world of gaming, there's a lack of security a lot of the times, you know, like if you don't make a, you know, do a decent game, that like you could be gone, you know, after your game is released, like, because if so, you know, if you're being supported by someone and they don't feel like they want to continue supporting you, and like, you know, and that's not to say that that's never going to happen ever again inside of Microsoft, but I I feel like that they've really picked and choose the companies that they wanted to buy for reasons, because they already had a really good relationship in some cases before, and they just wanted to solidify those, almost like a marriage
Well,
of sorts, you know.
now it's going to be up to the players.
Yeah.
You can invest in as many games to companies as you want, but it's going to be up to the players to get it. You could be so happy
they're gonna
that
have to. It's gonna be different now, though, right? Because of Game Pass, like they're gonna look at engagement with these companies in these games, right? Where, like, you look at the Outer Worlds, for example, it just came out that it's sold 3.5 million copies, but how many people engaged with it because of Game Pass? I know I didn't buy the game, right? Like, I played it through Game Pass, and yeah, those sales numbers are impressive for a new IP, but like that could easily be double or even tripled because of Game Pass, right? Like I especially because it came out for Game Pass on PC and Xbox. And you know, I know Microsoft didn't publish that first game, but they own Obsidian and they're going to publish the second game, so they're going to be looking at engagement with you know.
And yeah, because Microsoft reports on a lot about the numbers of things being played. Of course, we could always focus on numbers of being sold, and I know me and Jesse have talked about. Yeah, it's great that there is engagement, but how many people are really finishing these games? I think Microsoft is not worried about if people are finishing them. I think Microsoft is just like, as long as we know and get a count that you guys are playing it on our service.
I mean, I haven't finished any game, I think, that I played on Game Pass. Like, to be honest with you,
you know, the thing is, though, too, is I think they know what kind of people that, you know, like things like Game Pass are targeted towards, and you know, and I think too, like, you've got, you know, like I've told you guys that, like, since Game Pass, I've been much more venturous in what I try to play, right?
Same.
That's not something that you can do when you can't just buy everything without, you know, knowing really what you're getting into and playing it.
Well, yeah.
And
I mean, but
if I like a game on Game Pass, I'm more likely to buy it, right? Like, or
finish it.
There's games that I will always buy, right? Like, I'll always buy Gears, right? Even though it's on Game Pass, because I love that series. But when Psychonauts 2 comes out, if I like it, I'm going to go buy it, right? Like, I'm going to buy the physical copy to sit on my shelf and not open, just like the rest of my Xbox games. But
I think that's something, and like I said, Microsoft is not worried about people finishing. People, you know, Microsoft is just like, as long as we know the numbers that you guys are playing it, that's fine, you know, with them, because they know they're consistently getting revenue from players and everything. So it's up to the players if they want to finish it or not. And I think that's the thing that Microsoft, you know, is really focused on. It's kind of a concern for me, but I'm trying to be positive with it, because like I said, you could throw all the money on in the world to these games, but I'm like, if the game is just so up and down, you know, it's gonna feel weird. But I think Microsoft is gonna be like, yeah, we got 3.5 people playing Starfield, or we got 6 million players playing Elder Scrolls 6. That's the only thing that Microsoft cares about. because they know that we got the players and they're paying us money to play these great games. We made it easier for them to play these games. They don't have to go out and spend whatever to get them. Go ahead.
And even if you don't want to pay for Game Pass, like Microsoft's still going to get your $70 now, right? Or 60. I don't know if Microsoft raised the price on their games or not, but like
they did. I think it's 70.
Did they? Well, I mean, I guess we really won't know until
we don't really
Halo comes out, because that's really the first
because medium was what, 50.
Yeah, but that was
40.
But it wasn't first party. Yeah.
That's the thing, is we don't know, but
I was just gonna say, like, plus with Microsoft having Game Pass on PC and Xbox and mobile now, I mean, we kind of said this at the beginning, but like, you don't need an Xbox to play Xbox games anymore, which is like crazy to think about. But what if, I mean, if Nintendo was just like, hey, we have an app on a smart TV now, and all you need is a Pro controller to play our games, like, I don't know, man. I just really like where Xbox is at, and I believe in the product, right? Like, I mean, I very rarely don't believe in a product, but like, I don't really care what PlayStation is doing right now. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, not to say that their product is bad or anything. I don't care about what they're doing right now. So why do I need a PlayStation 5, right? And I told Jesse, and I told the Boss Rush crew tonight, like, yeah, I'm gonna get a PlayStation 5 for Horizon because I believe in that product. I believe in the game. I don't believe in what Sony's offering in terms of online stuff or backwards compatibility or anything, but like, I believe in the Xbox as a product, right? Like, I believe in like, the games will come, and the games I like are already good. Like, I still think Halo 5 is really fun to play. The story is crap, but like, how many times have we played through Halo 5 together and just be like, oh man, this is dumb fun, I don't even really care.
That should kick me off the hell of it.
But I mean, Halo is one of the rare first-person shooters where I actually care about the story, and like, I would have liked Halo 5 to be better, but that's a game where the gameplay was so fun that it's like, after you get over, oh man, this story is, I don't really understand what's happening still. And like, after you got past that, it's like, well, we're just gonna be three friends and shoot aliens and not think too hard about it.
And I think that's why, like, this kind of also affects Series X, and I think Microsoft has taken a notice of it. Gearing up to release a lot of games that, for some people, they're asking the questions, why do I even need next gen? Because the games are not there. The ability to play older games and the functionality to get that experience is there, but it's almost going, for some people, it feel like it's almost about to go on a year, definitely for Series X, that they haven't played anything that defines Series X. And this is not I'm not trying to have a knock.
I mean, I know what you mean, Ed. Like, I was telling Jesse, the reason why I got a Series X is to play Destiny at 60 frames a second. That game is totally playable at 30 frames a second on an Xbox One.
Yep.
Did I need this? No.
But but do you don't have to buy a massive expensive computer though to be able to get better quality out of the things you already own.
True, and that's why I think when it comes, and I think that's why the sales of Switch has been strong. It's because there's something on there that when you get the system, there's a lot of stuff that have must-haves on it. This situation that's happening on with Xbox and stuff is what happened with N64. When you had a big drop, even with PlayStation, that you had a big drop. They went from Miles Morales now to Ratchet and Clank. I mean, well, Demon Souls, but that was.
But I mean, like, there's really no real exclusive that's like for the general audience, right? Like, Demon Souls is a very specific audience. I think Returnal is like a very specific audience, right? And Miles Morales was on PlayStation 4, right? Like, to me, there's still no reason to own a PlayStation 5. Like, I know Ratchet and Clank, a lot of people are excited for that. Like, again, I'm not saying these are bad games, right? I'm just saying that these games aren't for me, you know? So
Right.
I really don't see a reason to own that console.
And,
I
and
bought a Series X at launch. I didn't see a reason to really buy it either, except for the fact that I
Destiny
wanted to play
was
Destiny at 60 frames a second. I was excited for Hellblade 2 and Halo, right? I mean, we thought
mhm,
Halo was coming last year too, right?
Mhm.
For a while. Uh, but like there was really no reason when you can play all this on your Xbox One, you know,
right.
granted, lower frame rate, resolution, whatever, but still
Or
playable.
Beta One X.
And
Mhm.
I gotta tell you, I have a Series S also. Guess which console I play most? The
Series
Series
S.
S. You know why? Because it's in my office and it's easy to move, and I can take it in the bedroom. I can move it around. It's a I hated the console when they first showed it off with that big black circle on top.
Hmm.
It might be the coolest console they've ever built. Like I'm not even joking. It's so cool. Like if we weren't doing podcasts and stuff, and I wasn't concerned about having the best things, like the Series S is just like it would be the console I would have gotten and just
I still
kept.
think it looks like a speaker to
It
Which
me.
does.
is
It
hey, which
does.
hey, man,
and 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 I think that's why I think that's why Marcus, like, I'm glad that this happened to Sony and Microsoft, for them to learn when things like this happen. How do you prepare for it? How do you work through it?
Mhm.
Because like Nintendo, they've been through this with, like I said, the N64, but they've been trying to get stuff together with their own systems and everything. It's just good to see that Microsoft is preparing, because me and Jesse talked about it. I think all three of us talked about it, that I think Microsoft is going to go in hard. If the
Mhm.
pandemic didn't happen, Microsoft would have gone in hard with games, and
Mhm.
Series X would have
I
been.
still think they are. I just think they're just delayed, right? Like I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Psychonauts, like granted, it's coming to everything, but that's going to be like their first real kind of, since they purchased all these studios, this is going to be the first new game from a new studio, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and I think there is something to um holding back, like when you're in a moment where, like with the pandemic happening, like, had they known that the pandemic was happening, I don't think they would have given a day, a release date for something like a Halo, Infinite or something like that. But unfortunately, that information was already out, and then you have something happen. So,
Hmm.
like, like I've gone to this, and I think we've all kind of said this, that like it was a big deal for Halo Infinite to be
Delay.
delayed, but like, to me, that was a healthy business decision for them to do that. And I don't know if, you know who knows if something like that would have happened in the past, but like, I think they've really learned a lot, and they've made a lot better choices. And I feel like a lot of people are
I,
praising them for a lot of the choices they're
I
making
I think
now.
343 Studio is, and I think that's why with Retro, when they studios starting over Metro Prime 4, why do you think they haven't said anything? Why the only
Yeah.
thing that we know about is they've been hiring talent? Where
Yeah.
they're being quiet about it because they know that they want to bring this product out right. And
Yeah.
if you don't bring product out right, there's going to be ridicule, there's going to
Hmm.
be public opinion about it, and it's going to be ridiculous. And I think 343 Studio, I'm glad they got the feedback so they can
Hmm.
make this game better, and they
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
I really felt like their hearts was ready to go if the pandemic didn't happen. I think they were set to really release Halo Infinite and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think Microsoft had Microsoft and Phil Spencer them. I think they believed in for 343 Studio. They had their back, but things happen, and now they getting the time to make this game better. than it was. And I think that's
And
what I like about Microsoft. Like the support is what
yeah,
these studios need, and they're able to do it and stuff.
yeah. And with that said, I think we'll wrap this up here. I'm
Oh
glad
man, I'm
I'm
having
glad
so much fun.
I know I'm glad that we got to talk, more about this and get your guys' thoughts on the 20 years of Xbox. But I do have other people who would like to sit down and talk with me about
That's not
their
true.
20 years of Xbox. so so we will go to them and get their thoughts now.